But it is not the only one going on in World Cup qualifiers, because we have America's 2 going on as well. This is more like a survivor thing, because the America's 2 is decided when the loser of this fixture faces the winner of the next one. But we had last week Canada just squeaking past Chile 22-21 in a very tight game, in a game that I don't know if Canada were fully expecting to be as I don't know, even though they've been hit and miss, like after that US, the bigness or the momentum of that USA win that they got to open this campaign, this World Cup qualifying campaign, the way they played that day, they didn't quite expect what came at them from Chile. And like, it was talking about athletic superiority, like Chile were visibly the larger team from when the teams took the field, and Canada just attacked for like 60% of this game and couldn't do anything. Like,
if Canada thought that they were going to rock up and win this game, they haven't been paying attention, because the results coming out from Chile, beating Argentina 15, holding Uruguay to a 16-13 game,
15-10
or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a one score low scoring game, and now I haven't been able to see the Chileans that much. Now, having seen them, I get it. Like,
they're big,
their defense,
they're strong,
is
their defense
fiery.
Yeah,
that defense is very, very impressive.
Yeah,
they come flying out of the line. They tackle really well. Their breakdown work is astonishing. They get really low to the ground. They've dialed in the jackal skill, and they were just to the bafflement of the Canadian commentators. I was watching, constantly baffled as to why the turnover penalties were being given when they were just being won. Yeah. They were just eating the Canadians alive for large parts of this game.
It's true,
and they're a little bit like a Diet Ledesma's Argentina, which I know we just went in on, but you can see how good and a dialed in defense can be to disrupt a fledgling kind of offense at tier 2 level.
An offense that's ambitious, but sometimes the skill set letting them down. Certainly in the first going, that was what was noticeable, was that the Canadians were trying to get wide. Some of the passing from Brody at scrum half was like so wide. Like Nelson would, like, they'd be on their touchline and Nelson would be pretty much like in line with his posts, and it would be whipped off the left hand as far as him like a bullet. So it was like getting lovely width from the base of the ruck, and then Nelson would ship it on, and the next man would just drop it cold. But he wouldn't drop it cold out of the blue, and it wasn't like against the run of the play as the Canadians were suggesting. What would normally happen is they'd go wide, get smashed in a contact, recycle relatively quickly, go wide again, get creamed in the next contact, and then drop the ball from the ensuing ruck. And then that's gonna happen when you get lined up and smashed from a long way out by a team that are bigger than you, and Chile are definitely the bigger team in this.
I mean, they did show good intent, Canada, in the multi-phase and the counter-attack as well. But I mean, the skill set and the physicality do let them down, and the skill set in particular in this game, like they were getting smashed backwards, but like as you rightly point out, shape-wise, I didn't see too much wrong with what they were doing. There was some nice ambition there. Like, they have some good footballers as well. I thought the Jones-Lesage centre combination has a lot of potential to it.
Cooper Coates looked good, decent in the wide channels for times.
Found the edge once or twice, and they did manage to get a couple of scores, but they weren't ready for what Chile were bringing on defence, and they didn't judge it. Chile were just they were playing that sort of that game that we've become all too familiar with, when your defence is good and you back your kicking game. And to be fair to them, like as it was in the sevens, they are very, very kick heavy.
Yes.
Like, they're extremely kick heavy. They are all footballers, but their kicks were excellent. They kicked
unlike Uruguay, who kicked heavily, but actually some of them were pretty loose and pretty lazy. Chile kicked with purpose.
Strong kicks. They found
and they dared the Canadians to come at them, and the Canadians did from minute one try and go after them, and it was the skill set was letting them down. But also, that defence was just on top. That was the story of it. It was that it was on top, and it came down to a kicking exchange. This one went right down to the wire. Chile managed to come back in and take the lead with only a few minutes left. They had the lead in the dying breaths of the game, and some dubious decision making to tap and go and try and kill the game
under your own sticks
with like 30 seconds left. Rather than it was a penalty. Like, they could have just kicked down to the halfway line, won a line out, kicked it off there. Grand.
That was a baffling play. That was just really, really poor coaching and poor decision making from all involved. You just don't do that.
They did a few weird decisions. They all did one in the first half where Canada were one of their many red zone visits. Red zone efficiency stat not good for the Canadians in this one.
It started off well, but
they threw a crooked feed from a kick into the corner, which they did gamely. Even towards the end, they were kicking to the corner all the time. But yeah, they threw crooked feet, and Chile had a choice of scrum or line out. And their scrum, despite their physical heft and their great maul, their scrum was a basket case, and so they opted for the line out, which I was thinking, like, that kind of makes sense. Unusual option, but from 5 out from your own line, but maybe makes sense because their scrum's so awful. And then they jumped at 2, telegraphed, and gave it straight back to Canada. I was like, okay, no, scratch that. No, but silly idea. And a few of their decision making things like that would be a little alarmed. Like certainly that tap and go and then get called for sealing at the next ruck was a little red flag in terms of, you know, very good defensive team. Maybe a little dumb. Maybe a little dumb.
No question. That was not a good play call. But they did, to their credit, they were their offensive maul. Like they are who this team is very clear. This is a team that backs their defense, backs their kicking game, and those teams, in order to function, particularly when they don't have a scrum like this team doesn't, they need a very good maul. They had that. Their maul was quite quick and quite impressive. Javier Iceman, the absolute tower, like the Iceman tower at the front of that maul was an absolute colossus guiding them forward.
Oh, he dwarfed everything. I think Tyler Ardron's back in for this week, and he'll need to do a job because Iceman looks massive. Like, literally physically massive. But as you rightly say, spearheading that maul, he was just immovable at the front. There was not even a whiff of a Canadian turnover coming at those mauls. But to be fair, Chile in attacking sets were few and far between. It was predominantly Canada with the ball in hand in this one, and it was just Chile were happy to welcome them.
They made some good adjustments, Canada, after their drops. They tightened things up in the red zone and actually found Chile a little wanting when they kept things really narrow and scored a few tries in quick succession in the red zone. And I was thinking, they might have this figured out in that sense. But they then started to, as the game went on, they got a little more tired and their offensive breakdown work went to pot, and they couldn't clear out a ruck. They were called for sealing, they were called for jackals constantly every time they were in the red zone.
A few times.
It stopped being coming about drops and the technical inefficiencies that they have in the passing game and the running game, and became about the technical inefficiencies they have around the offensive ruck. And it's a problem to solve. I mean, I like what Kingsley Jones is trying to do with the team.
I like some of their shape. I like their scrum half. The 2 tries from Broadway were excellent around the fringe.
That's right.
That's where they found their ins.
Do they truly have the skill set to play the kind of game he wants them to right now? It's
tough to know.
A question up in the air. They didn't deserve to win this game. They were blessed. They were blessed.
They were at the very death they were behind, and it was just that they were behind. Chile had managed to navigate a game pretty well until the clangor at the end. Then they did deserve to win the game. They went from not deserving to win the game to deserving straight away because of what Chile did.
Well, Chile might have deserved to lose it for that, but I don't think that Canada deserved to win it. I thought they were beaten in the end, and listen, it was the home leg. It was the home leg. It was a poor one. I would say that there was a bit of giving out about the ref that I saw from
Busby in this one.
Busby, the Irishman. In Busby's defence, I think that a lot of those give-outs were facilitated by the Canadian play callers not understanding what was going on.
That's true. A lot of the time they were going like, Canada here running around.
They didn't seem to know who had the
ball.
There's
against the run of play. And it's like, no, it's not. I watched this run of play, and the run of play was Canada go out, get smashed, get turned over. That is the run of play. Exactly. Just because you have the ball doesn't mean you're in the run of play.
They didn't seem to be dialed into what was happening at the breakdown. Although, granted, the one angle syndrome of the coverage seemed to hurt them
a little bit, for sure. Well, the one that I think was the glaring one was the tip tackle.
That's what I was going to say.
I think it was on Peter Nelson, and it was just a classic rough in the passer late hit above the horizontal as well.
Yeah, that was the one moment for me. There were perhaps a couple, but like Busby by and large at the breakdown didn't think he was a problem. But on that foul play one, that he stopped and took a look at it, and Peter Nelson had given the ball already, or I'm not sure if he kicked or gave it, but then he was picked up, tipped over the horizontal and dumped down, and then Busby looked at it and looked at it and looked at it and said, that looks like a clean hit to me, dominant tackle, no foul play. That was as baffling a call as I've seen. What are you looking at? It was late for starters, and it was over the horizontal. Like, I just don't understand how he comes to that conclusion. And then also there was an incident where Chile were accused of eye gouging in the game, and there was a still that looked pretty incriminating, I must say. Well, I didn't see the incident itself. I did not see the incident.
Yes, indeed.
But they still didn't leave much room to the imagination, and I definitely think that a little bit like a diet Ledesma Pumas, this Chile team,
a little bit dirty at times.
Yeah, they need to be cleaner and less nasty on defence to truly get me on board.
True.
But they are...
And also to probably effectively shut down this Canadian side. I don't think they need to go to the dirty side, just given their physical advantages. They are bigger, stronger, and game to defend what is occasionally quite a loose, frenetic Canadian offense.
Yeah.
Like when it sticks, they can score some beautiful tries, as we've seen before. Like they can run it in from 60 metres out in a very ambitious display of rugby, but for every one of those there are like 30 sets of terror.
30? I thought you were going to say like 7 or...
No, I think it's close. Based on this game's evidence, like how many tries did they score in this game?
Did they score 3?
Yeah, and they attacked for like 60 of the minutes.
Yeah,
and they dropped like loads of balls. So like it was very evidently a tier 2 game. That's what I would say. Like it was stop start as well. Part of it was the Chileans going down all the time, a la Springboks again. Like there was every break in play was interrupted by a Chilean just lying on the ground again. And you're going,
they knew what they were doing.
They knew exactly what they were doing, and they came and played a really good game right up until that last play. But they've already teed themselves up in an advantageous position. Granted, they're 1 point down, but this is their home leg. Like they'll know that a win, pretty much of any kind, like because a win, or even 1 point win, I don't know what the scenario is. They might go extra time for 2 10-minute periods, and then a third 10-minute period if it's still level where there's sudden death, and then a kicking competition. Oh, lovely!
It was the same rules played in France this year, where you had that Pirates Bayonne game, which managed to get to a kicking competition, and Bayonne were relegated off the back of it.
There you
Let's
go.
hope we don't see an even higher stakes kicking competition than that.
Going on. No, we hope not. But from I was just saying, from the Chilean point of view, they know that a home win here against a very gettable, laudable Canadian team is the way to go.
Yes, and that does nicely bring us to the second leg here. It's going to be in the Estadio Elias Figueroa Brander in Valparaiso. I should go to the guy who actually can speak a bit of Spanish when we come to this. I mean, I started that and I was like confident, and then by the end it was just gone.
Just tragic.
This game is also going to be on Saturday, 7 p.m. local time, which I think is again the exact same kickoff time, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And again we're going to have Argentinian and Uruguayan officials for this one.
Yes.
And then just as far as the picture from each team, we've kind of touched on it already, but the Chilean model isn't going to change on the evidence of last week.
We got an offense via defense, and the defense is Chile here. They're going to try and gobble up this ambitious Canadian side and smother them and get their home advantage. Try and make that tell flex literally here, because they will kick. They will kick to...
Yeah, there's no Cooper Coates this week as well, so they need to find in that backfield.
Yeah, test the backfield. But a kick-heavy strategy that will focus on getting off the line and dominating without the ball. Going to try and assert themselves without the ball first. And then with the ball, it's not particularly ambitious. They'll be setting up attacking kicks, and they'll be setting up maul opportunities.
That's right. 50-22s, but also just little grubbers into the backfield. The Canadian defence can be ragged at times, especially when they're forced to turn. Turning them around and putting pressure on them is the Chilean model, and then minding their discipline, putting the pressure and forcing turnovers and unfavourable positions from Canada, and using your man, that fullback Videa, to chip over threes.
He's another one who strikes a lovely ball from a place kick. He actually had a very, very nice start. I hadn't seen him before, but I was enjoying watching him chip those 3-pointers.
He missed one from range, but that was a long way.
And it was only because it was another one. Canada were kind of tilted at that point because he just kicked one from a closer range, and then no sooner had he done that than Canada infringed again, and they were like, we'll have a pop. Why not? Could have been just 6 points in the blink of an eye, but that one fell a little short. But he has a lovely strike on him, so he is their tool. They're going to play like the old school 10-man rugby style. He's at 15 for them, but if they can manufacture penalty chances and create a climate, a cauldron that Canada are kind of chasing a game and getting a little looser, then they can manage to get kickable penalties and kick themselves into a winning scenario.
And indeed, and they're going to have to. They're going to want to put points on the board to some extent. The thing about Canada that they have to their advantage, like any team that's more offensive focused, is that they're only going to need to be right. They're going to need to be right in fewer moments to make things count and to get on top. Like in the early goings of the Chile game, Chile were all over them, and yet Canada managed to get themselves a 12-9 lead at one point, just because they score in 5s and 7s and you score in 3s. So if Chile, just as a point of difference, can generate a defensive try, or put
a chaos kick try,
or just
intercept try, which is there
exactly, a defensive try or an attacking kick try, or if they can time a good shot to the corner or a good 50-22 and set up their maul. I think their line out's going to be important. They lost one or two of them, but if they can maintain solidity at the line out out and then make the scrums a large non-factor.
Get that big yoke to the front of the maul and drive into the heart of this Canadian side.
Absolutely. I mean, that maul looked very, very impressive, and particularly against the Canadian pack, it looked like they could be there all day. And at home, with home field advantage, given how different Canada looked away from home versus at home. Can I say Canada? It's late here, but it's given how different they looked away from home in the earlier games against the US. I think just looking to impose themselves physically and get on top of them could be enough.
It could, but it could. Obviously, we've seen Canada unravel before, and Chile will have seen that too, and they'll know that exerting their pressure, they'll be confident that they are bigger, stronger, more physical. So make them feel it. Make them feel it at home. That's a big part of their recipe here, is just apply the squeeze. Put them in the vice and squeeze and see all the intercept tries fly out of them then.
That's it, exactly. Just turn pressure into points. The only fear I'd have for them is that they won't turn it into enough points.
That could be their undoing but it's all to play for. There's bigger stakes in this one than the other one, although the winner of the other game will be into the World Cup. The loser of this one will be going home. World Cup.
And when you talk about the financial benefits of being in a World Cup versus not, I mean, granted, the 2014 proposal could come in and they could be relieved of that, but I mean, this if that doesn't come in the near future, it could be a permanent falling behind for the loser. The stakes are that high because the bump that the winner will get.
In terms of progression, we saw Uruguay have grown leaps and bounds since even that World Cup appearance, and the money there probably helping them to do so. And Chile, to be fair to them, have been growing along with South American rugby. They've been one of the shining lights moving forward. They've overtaken Brazil. They were behind Brazil. They've since
they were last place in that America's Rugby Championship as recently as 2019. And yet they have gone from strength to strength and developed a very difficult to play identity, which is exactly right, and with the footballing skills to boot. They will be confident going into this at home. From Canada, or Canada's point of view, the big news this week is that Daragh, having posted his plane ticket on Twitter, is flying out to join the team to try and save the World Cup campaign.
And try and deal with that big monster that the Chileans are bringing in.
Exactly, this Iceman, the killer. He's coming straight in. Like he was a lock, he's now a back rower, which suits well because actually the two locks from Canada, Bailey and Thomas, were actually quite good. They each nicked a couple of lineouts.
True,
definitely fine with them in there, but just this guy to come in, Ardron, to add a little oomph to their back row is definitely huge. He's big, he's physical, he's rangy.
He's also a leader in that team as well. He's someone that those guys will respect.
Yeah, he's captained them before. He was a great player for the Chiefs back in the day. He's currently playing, I believe, for Cast, and actually was man of the match in a win over Toulon last week.
There you go. Ardron. So there's a bit of form to be bringing in. Good quality guy.
Can he be a difference maker up front? Can he, first of all, disrupt the line-out ball, disrupt the breakdown ball? Like the key work on there are two, obviously the skill set in terms of the ball movement, but like the offensive breakdown that has to be fixed. That has to be fixed
for sure. Because they're such a tackle jackal team that they're facing. Like you gotta be technical. You gotta even sacrifice some of the ambitious play that they're doing just to resource the ensuing ruck. If you're going to be taking a contact, you need to have guys there, and you are the smaller team on balance as well. You might even need two guys there to retain your ball, and that is going to be important. Similarly, the kicking game as well. Like they'll probably need to adjust some of that. Some of their kicking was a little bit aimless.
They made a good adjustment mid-game. Like at the beginning of the game, they were kicking it deep, and then Chile were just responding with better kicks. Chile's kicks were longer and more accurate. But towards the tail end, actually, they put up some good contestables and actually had a bit of a height advantage on the wings.
There you go. So these are using your assets.
Exactly. Your man Webster on the wing was quite decent in the air.
Like
that's definitely an in for them in the midfield kicking game. It's just that adjustment.
Those back and forth tennis duels.
They were losing all of them.
Yeah, they'll likely end in Chile's favour, particularly at home. So like a home field advantage is such a big thing for kickers as well. Things like the way wind plays and stuff. They always do cite things like that. So a kicking team like Chile, you'd have to think they'd have the edge if it's just speculatively going back and forth, but a bit more aim to them. Like get your box kick up, get a contestable, get a guy up there, try and retain the ball, and then sure off kick return. That's kind of, if you're moulded on an attacking team, if you can generate that chaotic moment and then flash it right, you have a great scrum half who can be there to do that. That's more like playing a Canadian style of rugby than just playing into a Chilean style hand.
No question. And I think that the Jones, I've said this already, but I think the Jones-Lesage combination has a bit of potential to it. I just think that on offense, their shape is good, but it's the errors they need to dial back, and they just need to focus. Like the writing on the chalk of the blackboard this week needs to be to mind the pill.
Yeah.
Be a little bit more patient, like they were when they got their tries, and that's where the offensive breakdown work becomes so important.
Yeah.
But they can't just be throwing the 50-50s or even like the 60-40s, because they're not 60-40s when these guys are involved. They're dropping way too many of them.
The error count was crazy.
Yeah, they need Spencer Jones and Nelson and Lesage to be taking carries, running tight enough little runs off each other, finding an edge in the contact, getting rid of that jackler, and then moving again through the phases. And then all of a sudden, if Chile are put under pressure for a few phases, they might be the kind of team to just throw hands where they don't belong and give up penalties.
Yeah.
They probably will be.
They probably will be based on some of the that red flag I was citing, where it's like, are this team potentially a dumb team? They look like they could be. So if you apply a bit of squeeze, another one that I think they should focus on. Just it's not something I would have thought going into this. It's not something I would... The scrum. I would rarely say it about Canada, but attack them at scrum time, because they're all over the place and there were penalties there for them, and it's like good entrances, good exits, all coming through scrum. It's an unusual scenario for Canada, who are normally only just hanging it together themselves and in and out kind of guys, but scrum, lock it down and drive and scrum for pens, because like based on last week's evidence, they're there. And certainly if Chile lock it down, then maybe go back to just trying to flash it out of the scrum. But I think at the beginning, have a cut. You might get a penalty, you might get a cheap in, and you might be able to dominate the territory game is going to be key for both of these sides. The winner will end up being the ones who are dominant in territory, I think, in this instance. And like for Canada, the recipe for dominance is a little different, because Chile are the superior kickers, I think, on balance as the team. So a combination of up and unders and good penalty ins, frustrating them into either killing the ball penalties or scrum penalties. Anything will count, but make your way into the right area, because then even if you drop the ball, or even if you can concede thing, it's not a kickable penalty you're conceding. Then it just limits the risk if you can play in the right areas, which, to be fair, by the end of the game they were, and that's what ended up nicking the win, was the fact that it was just all camped out in the Chilean territory, and they ended up nicking the win last week on the result of a baffling Chilean play, which they would bite your hand off for this week.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, we saw in that first game against the US what they can bring if they dial in their skill sets.
If the passes stick, then great, they could cut them open, you never know.
But against a staunch Chilean defence in front of their buoyed home support, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, I'm going to hedge with the South Americans, and it somewhat pains me to say, because I actually think in this year, in 2021, Canada have restored a little bit of what I used to like about them to them. Like, I was so down on them in the World Cup, as if you were watching back then, you probably know. Like, I'm convinced they were the worst team at that World Cup. I'm still raging they didn't get to play Namibia, because I think Namibia would have beaten them and got their first win, and I just thought they were like awful in all kinds of ways. I think they have improved, no doubt, but I think the rate of progression, just looking at in both cases, I think the US and Canada have been doing a little bit of this, but in Uruguay's case and in Chile's case, just watching from afar, not even getting to know this team that well, but just looking at results, it's been steadily going up and up. On like America's Rugby Championship after another, they've been ousting Brazil as the team, they've been pushing Uruguay close, they've been getting results against Argentina 15s or pushing them close as well. Like they've been progressing quite nicely, and they've like a 1 point deficit to overcome at home against a team that they had kind of beaten before they threw it back in their face, threw the win away at the very death. I think that if they can tighten a few things up, they should be confident of their ability to take this one.
Yeah, I'm not going to deviate from you on this one. I think I'm going to back Chile as well on the evidence of what I saw last week. I just
making it the first time that Canada don't make the World Cup.
I mean, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe Canada will punish them. They're probably the prettier team to watch if they do get it going, but the errors...
They're also maybe the more likely... traditionally in Tier 2 sides, I think the attacking Tier 2 side, or the Tier 2 side that just gung-ho goes for tries, makes a better spectacle of those Tier 1, Tier 2 mismatches than the team that comes in thinking we're a bullish defensive side and then runs into the Springboks.
Neither of these teams have a prayer of disrupting a Tier 1 side right now.
No.
But they are still playing for the carrot to get there, to get to that place and to at least move on in the qualification stakes. But no, I agree with you. I think Canada, too many errors, just not quite right, making all kinds of mistakes on offence, and the Chilean defence eating them up. In fact, I kind of see it going the same way this week, although Chile might make them pay a little more. So I'm going to give it to Chile this week. I'm not going totally North America. I'm going US and Chile.
Okay, I'm going totally South America. I'm going Los Terros and Los Condores. You know, I'm rooting for those guys. I'm not rooting. I'm kind of neutral. I'm ambivalent, but I suspect that the South Americans have been progressing slightly more than the North Americans. I might be wrong. What do you think? Let us know in the comments down below. Who you got?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fun one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed what you hear, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below as well. We enjoy hearing your opinions too. Thank you.